Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for coming. We welcome you to Wordplay 2, our poetry night. This is actually round 2 of our new Spring Arts Festival here at St. Peter's. You can see all of the wonderful artwork we have from our community's children. When we opened our art show on Friday, we also had a jazz coffee house. This Sunday, we will be part of the Morristown Art Walk, and we've got even one of our exhibiting photographers, Isabel Crichton, will be over in the annex with other artists. And a week from Saturday, May 12th, we're going to be having a Children's Arts Day here. A full day of hands-on workshops for kids led by professional artists. And so we hope you, if you know any children, if you have children, please bring them, please register for them for the day. I wanted to, in particular, thank Ruth Nicholson. She's just left, but she arranged for all of the food for this evening. The coffee is coming. It is coming from Smart World. It is en route. The person kind of forgot that today was Tuesday, so she... I'm getting a... Okay. The coffee is coming. I'm not used to talking to people in front of an audience. We are going to start. Clearly, public speaking is hard for me. Sometimes writing is also hard. And we have a series of little poems that we wrote in church school that talk about that. And so we thought to kind of warm things up this evening, we would have a little musical and poetry interlude with Peter Moffat, our resident musician.
Writing poetry looks easier than it is. Words prove elusive. 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 When you write and have nothing to say, writing down mindless jargon, you pretend to have something others don't have, an illusion of greatness. Now I am writing. Can't think of anything. Now I am finished. Finished.
That was Mary McMahon and Peter Moffat. And I'm Kevin Coughlin from MorristownGreen.com. Thank you very much for coming to Wordplay 2. And to get us started one more time, let's start with some haiku. Here's an RSVP from a friend of ours, Michael Levy. I wish I could go, but I have to work tonight. Enjoy the poems. So thank you all for coming and good night. No, there's more. Our first wordplay was so much fun, we had to try another one. But don't worry, the rest of the poems will be much better than that. First of all, we'd like to give many thanks to our friends here at St. Peter's, to the rector, Janet Broderick, to the assistant rector, Melissa Hall, and to my partner in crime at Morristown Green, Sharon Sheridan. And tonight she really will be preaching to the choir. Some quick commercials. I think Sharon had mentioned we have the MG Kids Art Show here now, and some of our poets tonight actually are exhibiting here, and we'll point that out as we go along. This show runs through May the 13th, and please check it out when you have a chance. It's really some nice stuff from preschool through high school. Next weekend, this coming weekend, on Sundays, the Morristown Art Walk from noon to 5. We're one of the 9 stops on that art walk. And then the following weekend is the Children's Day of Art that Sharon had mentioned. A lot of great workshops. We have information on all these programs right here on the table, so later on, please take one. And also, please enter our 5th annual MorristownGreen.com Film Festival. It's coming up this summer. It's always a great evening, and this year's theme is comedy, so make your video. Just have to keep it clean. Keep it under 5 minutes long, and get it into us by July the 15th. It'll be shown outside in October. There'll be prizes, music. It's always a fun night, and there's information again on that over here too. Also, somewhere over there, you'll see this box, a lock box. It's a tip jar. If you enjoy what we're trying to do here and you'd like us to do more of it, and you have a few bucks in your pocket or some loose change, please throw it in there if you can. Some quick ground rules for tonight. We ask that, I don't really have to say this with this crowd, but please respect our poets. For some of them, it's the first time they've ever given a reading. If you could set your cell phones to vibrate, that would be great. You don't want to turn them off completely necessarily, because if you get the urge to tweet something poetic to us, we'll try to read those as we go. If you want to tweet to us, it's hashtag Wordplay2, as in Roman numeral 2. So hashtag Wordplay, Roman numeral 2. Okay, so real quick, back to wordplay. So in a lucid moment, Coleridge wrote that prose equals words in their best order. Poetry is the best words in the best order. And Plato, who was one of the Marx brothers, observed, poets utter great and wise things which they do not themselves understand. And to prove it, Plato added, writing is the geometry of the soul. I don't know much about geometry, but I do know that words really pack a punch. Simple combinations in the best order can really shake your bones. Simple words like, I love you, I hate you. The whole universe of human experience lives between those polar opposites, and we hope to explore them tonight. So to get us going, our first poet, she's a very accomplished writer, poet, and artist. She is an outspoken advocate for social justice and equal rights. She's a devoted mom. She's also the assistant rector here at St. Peter's, and she blends the spiritual and the practical. She makes the Lord's trains run on time. And that's one of the reasons why our MG Kids Art Show is off to such a great start. Please welcome Melissa Hall.
I love that traveling music. Thank you, Peter. It's hard to pick a poem when you're a priest. You know, I went through my poems, they said, uh-oh, that won't do. That won't do. That certainly won't do. So if there's ever a poetry reading like in Jersey City, you come see me there. It's a whole different tone. The first little poems you heard were the brainchild of Sharon Sheridan. She was doing a poem slam with some of our church children, which Mary read so beautifully and Peter accomplished, accompanying. Here he comes. Oh my God.
One more.
Okay, one more? Now I'm really scared. Okay. So Sharon asked me to read a poem about the creation of poems and poetry. How painful is it, right? I mean, it's painful. I mean, I'd rather give birth to a baby that weighs 17 pounds than try to write a poem sometimes. Poets are in agreement? Right, okay. This first poem is called Valley of Dry Poems. And yeah. It's inspired by a psalm, a prayer by the prophet Ezekiel, a beautiful prayer for the Jews when they were in exile in Babylon. It's called the Valley of the Dry Bones, and essentially God's promising to bring life back. So it kind of inspired me, because I was having a night when I couldn't write. Poetry forgives nothing. It is all bones of a carcass, midwifed from the salted depths of consciousness, laid out and exposed in the sun, bleached anxiety. It's an idea. And in loss and decay, it reduces itself to a lattice-work fossil. And around it, flatulent winds of cranky sentences argue against each other. Catching an edge and levitating the skeleton upright to wobble about on calloused heels of haughty words that it cannot restrain. In time, the soul's vapid cloud breath is loosed through the harp of ribs, plucked. It whistles a note, played by ear and keeping the meter and measure. An anorexic finger is tapped under the plate of sternum in mea culpa counterpoint. The shift of air comes in a relief of balmy night that settles down with sweaty hands, clutching the rounded hips of ebony stone ink pots, dipping a dusky tongue into the black sea. The sliver of steel pen point probes deeply the mysterious dark places between the lines and traces out the graceful shadows of bones, casting them onto the paper in a creation of an exact replica, yet not a true descendant. This poem is much more sensual, elongated, and fluid, light, pliant. More lively than the parent, it's a love affair, instigated by the imagination of its writer. Thank you. This poem's called Catch and Release. Wrote it today while waiting in a doctor's office. A good friend of mine has moved to Florida. She's retired down there and is convinced she's having a good time, and spent 20 minutes talking to me about a tarpon. Okay, how many times can you say tarpon? I'm not convinced she's happy down there. So this is what came to me. The tarpon eyed her. She was there every night in the midst of the stars. Was she in love with him, or just hungry? This time, she laid out flat on the edge of the dock and whistled softly. "Come here, I have a secret," she called to him. And the tarpon rolled to the side, pretending to have an ear to hear. "I'm not supposed to talk to you," she said, "but do you think you could go for a girl like me?" He was astonished with her boldness. No doubt she's a homely fish, for sure, he thought. But he was captured by the depth of her eyes, like deep water. And the idea of cross-species fertilization was certainly tantalizing. "Sure," he said. "Would you like to go out dancing?" Thank you. The last one I'm going to read, it's inspired by Kevin talking about poetry and geometry. And it is autobiographical. It's called Mything the Point. It is a known historical fact that the women of my family are genetically predisposed. Oh my God, it's my mother. No, I'm sorry. That was scary. I apologize. The women in my family are genetically predisposed to being math incompetents. Not good with phones either. Throughout our childhood, both parents proselytized and dispassionately detailed the fait accompli. They said it was a genesis that sprung from our less fortunate ancestors, born ignorant and impoverished on a dim, truculent moor, who dropped a stitch out of our familial DNA one moonlit night while fornicating their bodies of kindling, trying to spark a bit of warmth in that bone-snapping cold they extinguished forever, a critical piece of genealogic protoplasm from our lifetime librettos. We could not do long division. So I readily adopted this propaganda for my own, in a conspiracy of compliance to never aspire to anything extraordinary, abrogating my rights to calculating the velocity of a hummingbird and the circumference of the moon, the arc, the angle, the infinity of pi. Patiently, I explained to my baffled high school teachers, preserve your breath. For those who can value those eloquent ciphers, I'd say, it's all irrevocably lost on me. I'm handicapped, you see. I have a biological circuit breaker, and it will trip itself numb at the slightest hint of anything arithmetic. None of the significant women in my past, mothers, grandmothers, aunts, cousins, sisters, ever questioned this point, or presumed to hope beyond the humanities of practical existence. Day by day was measured in chores accomplished, using the tools of the household trade. 6 sides to a salt box comprised the geometry of a home, and the proportion of a dollop was always in the palm of your hand. Ultimately, our studies became more advanced, becoming more advanced in the trigonometry of table settings, accomplished by rote, making very tedious triangulations of fish forks to bread plates and consomme spoons, while always keeping knife edges turned westward on the globe of the plate to ensure safety and the diminished probability of risk to a willing female wrist. Thank you.
That was Melissa Hall. I'll never look at a tarpon the same way again. So because it's a school night, we're going to have some of our younger poets reading next. And so our next poet is a 7th grader. She is 13 years old. She notes that she has been filling notebooks up before she could read and write. It began with squiggles, progressed to numbers, and now to words. She says that she would like to read a couple of originals for us tonight, Fireworks and I Used to Think, and also something by Irene Rutherford McLeod called Loud Dog. Please welcome Mary Woolley.
My first poem is I Used to Think. I used to think the moon was a nail cutting, the stars were glitter, planets were paint splatters. I used to think witches and goblins came at night, demons danced in the shadows, black cats slunk in the street lights. I used to think fairies lived in my backyard, game nobles dwelled in the gardens, mermaids swam in the lakes. Now I throw smelly cloths over monsters, hide suspicions in the attic, shove magic in the corner, buckle wonders in old trunks. I used to think the sun went around the earth. Then I went to school. This poem is called Fireworks. Sparkling eyes cover the night, dance on the rooftops, making a sight. Colors gleam like jewels underwater, willowy patterns flash across the dark sky. Deafening noise, ooze of pleasure, melting stars raining down, falling away to reveal black, blank sky. This poem's called Lone Dog. I'm a lean dog, keen dog, wild dog, and lone. I'm a rough dog, a tough dog, hunting on my own. I'm a bad dog, a mad dog, teasing silly sheep, I love to sit and bay the moon to keep fat souls from sleep. I'll never be a lapdog, licking dirty feet, a sleek dog, a meek dog, cringing for my meat. Not for me the fireside, the well-filled plate, but a shut door and sharp tone and cuff and kick and hate. Not for me the other dogs running by my side, some have run a short while, but none of them would bide. Oh, mine is still the lone trail, the hard trail, the best, wide wind and wild stars and hunger for the quest.
It was Mary Woolley. Very nice. Okay, our next poet is also 13 years old. She is an 8th grader at the Peck School. She is an artist. I believe she's also exhibiting in the show here today. She can tell us about that. She said she began scribbling poetry since she was little, and she now writes for the literary magazine called The Art Spirit. Please welcome Elizabeth Merrigan.
So I'm going to read a poem called Laugh. There's a girl in my class who laughs loudly, an obnoxious cackle, a grating noise from a broken record. I sometimes wish she would just stop, and then I return to my book, but I forget my place, always. One day, she stopped laughing, and there was only silence, sweeter than any poison, dripping from the walls that had somehow gotten closer. But I still forgot my place. So one day I asked her, "Why don't you laugh?" with my finger in the binding on that same page that somehow never managed to turn. And she replied with clear, brown, watering eyes, "What about you?" Gradually, the room expanded with a new voice, though sometimes I yearn for her laughter.
That was Elizabeth Merrigan. Thank you, Elizabeth. You are exhibiting here, right? Whereabouts? In the back there? We'll have to check that out during the break. Also, we'll be acknowledging folks who are here tonight. I see Reverend Janet Broderick is in the back. Say hello to everybody, Janet. Thanks for letting us use your room here. Okay, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our next young artist. He is all of 11 years old. I think he's officially our youngest poet here today. He also was our very first correspondent at MG Kids on Morristown Green. He has a very fertile imagination, a great eye for detail, and a very unique perspective. I'd just like to read a brief passage of a story that he wrote for us on Morristown Green. He wrote this about Palm Sunday here at the church. It's an 11-year-old. "We had a long service with nice music and a sermon about how suffering makes people happy. It makes a lot more sense if you actually hear it. Also, there was a passion reading in which people acted out the crucifixion of Jesus and played all the parts. My dad was Jesus. He was a very good actor. Then, once the service was over, we went out to the parish hall and ate all the pastries on the table. I had 2 cinnamon crisps and a blueberry donut." He's also an artist who is on display here today in the art show, and he's a game designer. And like Steve Jobs, he thinks different. I'm trying to be nice to him, so someday he might hire me. We're going to hear now a poem by Carl Hausman.
We struck a deal. Carl is my son. He stands here and I read. This is called Bumblebees, and he wrote this for a contest at his school recently. Little can aught compare with the thing of challenged dare, life, the act of living. Though we often want to quit, and we seem to be misfit, we must go and last. Think of what you would miss. Plants, surely I am amiss. And yet the life of others. Think of the friendly bees, buzzing oft where no one sees, glorious and entrancing. Thus a world with bees abuzz glazes pain in a soft fuzz. A world with bees I want to live in.
There's going to be a lot of buzz about that one. Thank you, Carl and Sharon. Coming up next, St. Peter's is well represented here today. Our next young poet is a member of both the choir and the youth group here at St. Peter's. Please give a warm welcome to Eleanor Meli.
Okay, I'm going to be reading a poem that I didn't write. It's from the Jungle Books, and it's by Rudyard Kipling. Road Song of the Vanderlog. Here we go in flung festoon, halfway up to the jealous moon. Don't you envy our pranceful bands? Don't you wish you had extra hands? Wouldn't you like if your tail were so curved in the shape of a Cupid's bow? Now you're angry, but never mind. Brother, thy tail hangs down behind. Here we sit in a branchy row, thinking of beautiful things we know, dreaming of deeds that we mean to do, all complete in a minute or two. Something noble and wise and good, done by merely wishing we could. We've forgotten, but never mind. Brother, thy tail hangs down behind. All the talk we ever have heard, uttered by bat or beast or bird, hide or fin or scale or feather, jabber it quickly and all together. Excellent, wonderful, once again. Now we are talking just like men. Let's pretend we are, never mind. Brother, thy tails hang down behind. This is the way of the monkey kind.
Thank you very much. And now, because of the hour, we're going to have the mom of one of our children, young people, reading. Our next poet is actually a ringer. She's a pro. She's an English professor at Fairleigh Dickinson University, where she's the director of college writing. She enjoys capturing the experiences of her family and friends in her poetry, and says that her biggest inspirations are her kids, Max and Mary Woolley, who we heard from earlier. Please welcome Kathryn Douglas.
I'm not a ringer. Okay. The first poem that piece that I will read is called Gifts, and it has a couple of parts to it. There are two poems embedded that are dedicated to my kids, and each one has a little preamble. Gifts, Part 1. When she was young, Mary often walked up to me and without uttering a word, placed a pebble in my hand. Before she had words, she understood the power of giving, and she chose these gifts for me. Hers are the best gifts. Mary held out her hand and showed me God's grace. Her pebbles are sacred. They are her. Without her, I am lost. Without her, we are lost. Rewrapped for Mary. Each pebble a choice, placed in my palm by a tiny hand, a mosaic set into the heart. They cobble the path between us. Umbilical mortar builds the soul's knowing. Each pebble a kiss, pressed to forge the sediment of all things. Each creek-washed stone, ingrained with weight of fire and time, with joy and discovery and light, given as a fossil, telling, linking, loving, lay down these stones. Gifts, part 2. When he was in the 3rd grade, my son gave me a morning glory and asked me if it were good enough. He had planted and nursed the seedlings in his classroom, secretly. His are the best gifts. Max presented a flower and showed me God's grace. His morning glories are sacred. They are him. Without him, I am lost. Without him, we are lost. Morning glory for Max. Stepping outside in the morning on another day that my boy is not at home, he rises, sings, laughs. He wins the geography bee without me. He has left himself behind, his glory a pale blue horn, paper thin, delicate, so easily dashed by storm or sun. Open in the morning, ready, gone when I return. In the evening, tiny seed pods hang, ready, new glory waiting. The flowers will come and go again to remind me. He has left himself behind, his love a promise. Traveling to lands I do not know, he drifts, sleeps, dreams. On another night that my boy is not his home, stepping inside in the evening, his glory given. Thank you. The next one is called Bone Scan. So we're back into the bones again. For those of you who have had a bone scan, I went through this experience recently and had a surprising result. And though all is well, it really gave me some food for thought. Bone scan. Reaching into my bones, looking. Is my life measured here? Can my dust be read? My songs, my joy? And yet this modern divination has let me know what I have lost, what I have learned. My bones, bones before the fall, tossed that I may read and know what I have lost and what I might regain. Alive, they frame and answer life's question. Being is all. And Hamlet was faking it because the bones are silent afterwards, except for what we see in them ourselves. But there's still time. Read my bones before they are dust, unreadable, unknowable, before they become the earth that will tell a story different from mine. Thank you.
Kathryn Douglas, thank you very much. We'd also like to acknowledge some other folks that we have here today with us. We have the Grand Marshal of the St. Patrick's Day Parade, Rich Smith, and his wife, Marianne. We're hoping to get a couple of limericks out of him. We'll have to see. I also wanted to mention that we have a sign-up sheet here, so if you're not on our email list for Morristown Green, please put your email on there so we can let you know about other events like this. Our next poet, because of the school night, it's another mom, so she's going to go next. And even though she's been a poet since elementary school, last year at our first Wordplay, it was her first public reading. And she liked it so much, she decided she'd try it again. She has written a collection called Lepidopterist at Large. She sings here in the St. Peter's Choir. She cheers for the Yankees. She's a freelance journalist. She's also the matriarch of the MG family. She's the mom of MG Kids correspondent Carl Hausman, who you heard earlier. She's the wife of MG photographer Paul Hausman in the back. And as the editor of MG Kids, she's the heart and soul and brains of the MG Kids art show. She's a delight and a dear friend. Please welcome Sharon Sheridan.
Keeping with tonight's theme, I thought I would start out talking about the act of writing. This is called creation. Uh-oh, I feel a poem coming. It's like an itch in the bottom of my stomach. I have heard melody nagging behind my ears. a worry knocking from inside my forehead. I could stuff it down like so much indigestion, brush it aside like a whining child when I'm late for an appointment. Or I could acquiesce, slip into the pool of words mixed with spirit and see what emerges. Surrender, squeeze, push, breathe, release, cradle a newborn dream. Anybody at St. Peter's knows my car because it's got a big Yankees logo on it. So this was inspired by a trip to Yankee Stadium. It's called Baseball Fever. Hypodermic skyscrapers jab at swabs of clouds on blue as I drive into the hot zone of baseball fever. No cure, none sought. Sudden downpours drown only scorecards. Fans invite hoarseness with frenzied pleas and jeers, medicated with beer and hot dogs. Victory comes with the runs. Oh, doctor. This is called Before I Die. Sometimes my bucket list is thimble-sized. Just get me through this day, this hour, this agony. Let my son make the school bus. Let me finish my taxes. Let me bake all the holiday cookies I planned. Sometimes it holds an ocean of possibilities. I want to visit Australia and Israel and Egypt and South Africa and Scandinavia and Ireland and Italy and some fantastic exotic port of Asia. I want to win a Pulitzer Prize. I want to clean up my house, really, even my office, and build an extension and have it all stay neat and organized and be able to afford a house cleaner to keep it that way. I want to read everything worth reading. I want to see God. Most times it holds a bucket load of practicals and probablys, of dreams I might awaken to. I want to chant the Exultet again and soar with high C solos in the Allegri. I want to have a book of poetry published and a murder mystery. I want to dance and ride a bike, but not at the same time. I want to see my son grow into happy, healthy, independent adulthood. I want to grow old with joy with my husband. I want to reflect the light and know I made a difference. I still want to see God. And every time we have an epidemic, a swine flu, a bird flu, there's a lot of talk that goes around the church about communion, and is it safe to drink from the cup, and is the silver antiseptic enough? And lately we've started seeing, hand sanitizers around, and so that was what inspired this one, which is called Communion. Accepting the body, I smell Purell. A new ritual amidst lingering flu anxiety. The verger sits, gowned in black, to the altar's side, waiting for the procession with his ceremonial wand. No beasts to shove aside, no barefoot peasants reaching for the magic. All is sanitized, but the God in the cup remains dangerous. This last one I want to dedicate to 3 amazing priests, all of whom in different ways are responsible for who I am and for this arts festival taking place. Our rector, Janet Broderick, our assistant, Melissa Hall, and my friend Elizabeth Caton, who is in Delaware right now, but I'm hoping we'll get to see this video. This is called What Clergy Do. Diana's about to be, so you can listen carefully here. It's still time to change your mind. When I was a child, I thought I knew what clergy did. Those friendly, slightly scary guys, robed and collared and always respected. Clergy led worship in a swirl of color and sometimes smoke, chanting, praying, preaching words that made you feel guilty if you listened. Clergy showed up at the house when your mother wasn't expecting them and pretended not to mind the clutter. Clergy had children or cats, but didn't relate much to the children. They laughed while attending the parish picnic. Maybe they smoked teeny cigars. My college church clergy had regular names you were supposed to use: Peter, David, Stephen. But not the professor ones, they were always doctor. They still stayed mostly in church, except the chaplain who led retreats. They all were married. Today's clergy don't fit so well. They keep moving into demonstrations in government offices. They haul brush and build scarecrows and pick pumpkins. They voluntarily hang out with the kids. They preach the gospel like nobody's business and stick their noses into everybody's business. Politely, of course, most of the time. They drive to bedsides and train laity to do the same. Clergy listen. Some have curves, some give birth. They look you in the eyes as they distribute the host. They love you to health and put you to work. Clergy hug. Clergy cry. Clergy live, a touchable icon, willing anachronism, pointing to God. Thank you.
Well, it may take us a little while to see God, Sharon, but at least we have Derek Jeter for now, right? I'd like to also give a shout out to our cameraman, Ben Cutler. He's always here when we need him. Thank you, Ben. How are we doing on time with the tape there?
About 42 minutes, done.
Good, okay. Okay, well, while we're on that theme of the clergy then, why don't we bring up our next member of the clergy. She is a chaplain at Montclair State University. She will receive her Master's of Divinity this month. She will be ordained as an Episcopal priest. Formerly, she served across the street at Church of the Redeemer, and now she's serving at St. Luke's in Montclair. She lives up in Sussex County with her, quote, very large tuxedo cat, Bogart. And she's also a prize-winning film director at the Morristown Green Film Festival. Please welcome Diana Wilcox.
Well, I'm glad. I wish I had heard your poem before I started seminary. Would have helped a lot. As luck would have it, spending all those years in seminary and in church, most of mine poetry is faith-based, no surprise. The first one's called Baptism. In every life, there is a moment when we move forward, fully embraced, like water that drenches our souls. We are alive again, renewed and connected to the vibrations of life, the music of humanity. And in that moment, we realize that who we are is ever connected to who our neighbor is. We splash in the beauty and joy of the water, but that comes at a cost. Because we know, even in our wet underbellies, in our deepest and innermost places, that we are here not for ourselves alone, but for all who cannot, for the desert in their lives, feel the water of life. We are here for them, and they for us. The next poem is titled, Am I Your Child Too, God? I hear you are a boy, but I am not. I hear you are father, but I cannot be. I hear you are Lord, but I'm told to be a lady. I hear I am created in your image, but I do not see it in the mirror. I hear I am loved by you, but your church ignores me. I'm a little girl, God. Do you hear even me? Thank you. And the last poem is actually the title of my blog. I have a blog site called Dancing into Doubt, Flying into Faith. And this is called Dancing with the Doubt. I love to leap across the shadows, to dance with the doubt, to break the bonds of yesterday and run into the newness of tomorrow as a child swings to reach the treetops. I run not away, but to. Not casting away all that was, but opening to all that can be. Unconcerned with the emptiness or fullness of the glass, but drinking with joyful thirst all the water there. I am fully alive and flying with faith, soaring above the clouds, creating what will be from what is not yet, and meeting God in me and all around me. I dance with the doubt so I can fly with the faith.
Diana Wilcox, thank you very much. A couple more quick shout-outs. In the back, we have Chef Melody of The Main Event, who's catered so many wonderful events for us. Thank you for coming. We also have with us tonight from the Arts Council, Katie Dempsey and her terrific mural painting husband, Dan Fenelon. Okay. And we also have LaShawn Murphy is here from the Neighborhood House. And her other half, Charles, who is a great artist in his own right. How are we doing on time back there on the first tape?
47.
Okay. Well, why don't we take a couple minutes to, we're going to change the tape over and let's get some coffee. We have some refreshments here. Just 5 minutes, we'll come back. We have some really great stuff to come. And thanks for coming to Wordplay, too.
Morristown Green.